folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. Have you seen a lot of other doctors? Oh, doctors, healers, ocean dealers, lots and lots of priests. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we are doing another movie review. This is Suitable Flesh. Released in 2023, directed by Joe Lynch, and based on a story by H.P. Lovecraft called The Thing on the Doorstep. Speaking of H.P. Lovecraft, this film reminds me very much of a Stuart Gordon adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft story. Definitely has that feel to it, and it has Barbara Crampton in it, and it also has the Miskatonic Medical Center. I mean, what's going on here? Are we in the world of Re-Animator? I mean, did Herbert West take over the body of Megan Halsey? At any rate, it's a great nod to the Re-Animator series. I love it. So the film stars Heather Graham in the role of Dr. Elizabeth Derby, Judah Lewis as Asa Waite, Bruce Davidson as Ephraim Waite, who you might know from like the X-Men movies, and of course the lovely, the beautiful Barbara Crampton, one of my favorite horror actresses, as Dr. Daniela Upton. So what happens in the film is we start out at the Miskatonic Medical Center, and we meet Dr. Upton, and they just get in at the medical center, this horribly deformed and mangled body that apparently had been murdered by one of her patients, Dr. Elizabeth Derby. So Elizabeth Derby was a doctor there at the Miskatonic Medical Center. She was a psychiatrist. And now she's the patient of Dr. Daniela Upton. So when she goes in to check in on her, we find out that she's basically rambling and ranting and raving, and, Dr. Upton tries to, get to the bottom of it a little bit, trying to get her to realize how crazy she is, what her symptoms are, and trying to reach her, basically, as her doctor, That's her job, Try and make her better. But she's trying to tell her all about her story, that she's not really crazy, that it's all real, everything that's happened to her is real, and she needs help. So she's trying to reach out to Dr. Upton, and she's like, well, explain it to me, start from the beginning, we get, kind of calls back to the Curse of Frankenstein, when that guy goes to visit Dr. Frankenstein. He's like, start from the beginning, It's very similar to that. And then, Elizabeth starts to tell her story, and we see her as a psychiatrist seeing several patients. She's very good at what she does. She's capable of hypnotizing patients and getting them to share their true feelings, and, she's an excellent doctor. Until this one kid kind of barges in her office and, you gotta help me, and he's all crazy. So he starts to tell Dr. Elizabeth his story, and she's very intrigued by it. She's like, it's very interesting, because he seems like some kind of schizophrenic. And, while he's talking to her, he kind of like starts to convulse, and he has a fit, and his body starts to contort, his bones start cracking, and he has some kind of seizure, and then all of a sudden he's a different personality, which happens to be the personality of his father. So he starts saying stuff like, I'm outside of my body and stuff like that. My father wants my body, which sounds weird. So yeah, she decides to kind of take him on as a patient, pro bono, so he doesn't have to pay anything. And, he has some kind of crazy incident at the house, and he calls her from his house and wants her to make a house call. And she doesn't do that kind of thing, but, she's very compelled and very intrigued by this guy. So she goes to his house to visit and finds nothing but the father there, Ephraim. And he appears to be having a similar kind of a breakdown. So she tries to help him. But he tries to, kill her and grabs a knife, tries to stab her, And, so we realize there is something crazy going on, And it turns out that Asa is not just a schizophrenic. He actually is able to switch bodies, or at least his father is able to, because his father inhabits his body and possesses his body. And he's a bad dude, But at one point Asa does say that his father is not himself, that something has taken over his body. And we do see that Ephraim, while he's at his house, has this book, and it looks almost like the Necronomicon or something. There's these drawings of demons, and so apparently he was into some kind of demon worship or demonology. So that's probably what happened, I'm guessing, is that a demon actually came to life and inhabited his body and is swapping and jumping from body to body, and that's what happens. So what happens with Elizabeth is she's kind of not only intrigued by Asa, she's actually attracted to him, sexually. So they end up kind of, she ends up having dreams about him while she's having sex with her own husband. She sees him in her, instead of her husband, so it becomes like a sexual connection between the two, and they start having an affair, while he's inhabited by the body of his father. So it's like a weird, trippy, kind of kinky thing going on between the two. And at one point, Ephraim takes over her body, and then she gets all crazy and, sexual, and great performance by Heather Graham, by the way she inhabits all the different characters when her body gets swapped, she's able to switch at will, and she does such a great job because you can see a very, very distinct difference between the different characters, the people that inhabit her body. Asa at one point, Ephraim at one point, and they end up getting Dr. Daniela involved too, So what happens is, while Ephraim takes over Elizabeth's body, and she's all, off the wall, having crazy, zany sex with her husband, and, at one point, the demon inside says, it thinks it might have been born a woman, so that explains that. But yeah, they get Dr. Daniela involved, and then she gets inhabited by Ephraim, and she goes nuts, it's just crazy, and there's all kinds of brutal gore. At one point, Ephraim, in the body of Asa, kills the father, cuts his head off, and it's brutal, stabs him, slices him, and cuts his head right off, and there's blood everywhere. The film's pretty brutal. It's got some nasty gore effects very similar to that of, Re-Animator or From Beyond. It's got definite Stuart Gordon vibes to this film, big time, And I love that. So, great job by the director, Joe Lynch, and excellent performances, like I said. Heather Graham is just a fantastic actress anyway. And it's so great to see Barbara Crampton in this film. She's so beautiful. She's so great. I love her performance. And she really gets to shine in this film as well. To see them two great actresses together, with having great chemistry. And I love it. I think it's a fantastic film. So yeah, the film is associated with Shudder and will be shown on Shudder streaming network. So check it out there, or certainly grab a copy of the Blu-ray or both. It's an excellent Blu-ray of a really cool, kind of quirky, indie film, and I love it. So definitely check out Suitable Flesh, and thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Good evening, folks, and we got some brand new merchandise for you over at www.thehorrorcona.com, and that's CONA.com. Representing the Horror Corner. Great new design. We got the Morbid Hour live stream there, you got the Horror Hangout live stream there, and you got my nemesis, the Dark Fate. So grab your t-shirt over at www.thehorrorcona.com. And we also got this beautiful new mug. Look at that. Very, very cool. Thought that came out really nice. So grab your merchandise today over at www.thehorrorcona.com. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also check out these awesome mugs we have. Perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.